Are you on the struggle bus of sewing still? I see a lot of my students wanting to just learn how to thread the machine and then jump into really difficult patterns. But learning to do the basics first, laying the foundation, is how you get there. I always remember when I lived in LA, and actually even now, living in North Carolina, I always want to live close to the freeway. I hate driving to the freeway. Like those long roads, you're like, when will I get to the freeway? And then you're on the freeway and you're there for like a second and you're already done. So I have that hurry mentality too, just want to get to my destination. But I have a lot of students that they'll look through these Vogue pattern books. Have you looked through these? There's some beautiful stuff in here. We have like Bagley Mishka has designs in there that you can actually make. The patterns, the whole patterns are in there. Just beautiful, beautiful designs. And I have a lot of students that, this one's actually pretty easy, right? This one right here. This one looks pretty easy. I have a lot of students that they look through these books, or they just want to jump in and do fancy designs right away, and they don't want to do the basics. So I am Chanel. I'm actually had a career as a fashion designer and a costume designer. I did comedy movies. Loved doing that. It was so much fun. And now I have a sewing school in North Carolina where I've taught thousands of kids and adults how to sew, starting with some basic sewing classes and teaching them the foundations, and then moving into intermediate classes. And just like every project, you learn more and more. So I have seen a lot of whoops and mistakes and stuff, everything I've done myself in my whole years of sewing. So I think I've learned more in teaching sewing than I have in any of my career paths. But I have some of my students here. This was Nicole, that was her first skirt. We did that in 101, and that's a very basic skirt. You learn elastic casings, seam allowances, hems, just very basic, simple stuff. And then you're on your way. This is Carrie, who loves Harry Potter and cosplays. There's a lot of really great fabric store, or at the fabric stores, there's a lot of great fabrics, and like if you look Disney stuff, they're there. I'm hoping you saw my last video on taking a tour of the fabric store and really kind of looked at what do they have here, what's there to offer. This is Debbie. She took 101. She learned a lot. She's been with me for a while, and struggled first with doing placemats and napkins, very angular stuff, and then moved into clothes, which is really fun. And I have Ashley. Her friend is doing art pieces on canvas, and then she's turning them into tote bags, and beautiful stuff, learning how to do zippers, and I'm working with some tough fabric actually there too. And then I, of course, had to make my own wedding gown. I got married 3 years ago, and I was doing a nautical theme. I used to design wedding gowns, so of course I had to make my own. I really wanted to go to the store to find one, but people wouldn't let me do that. So then there's one of my little prodigy students, Tessa. She's a teenager now, but she made her own raincoat, and then she's made so many things. I taught her when she was about 9, and then we had a fashion show, and she just designed beautiful stuff. And I know she was sewing a lot lately. Actually, this is one of her designs, and there's a color blocking design, and I actually made it for her. So that was, I just wanted to challenge myself. That was on the bottom of it, and I thought that was fun. Just like you can sketch things out and then just create it. And that's what a lot of my students, that's where they want to get to. And that's where you totally can get to. You just have to slow down, get off the freeway, and do some basic stuff. This is Bailey. She made this whole sport jacket here and had it embroidered on the back. These machines can just do amazing embroidery work. I think she just paid somebody to have that done. This is another dress that Bailey had sketched out, and actually we made this together, and I had this cool universe fabric and did a lot of splicing here, and I think it had you see it here, the the sun. We're actually doing beadwork right here to put the sun in there. So that's what she calls the universe dress. So when you learn the basics, everything starts to open up. But if you don't want to spend the time on the basics, you're gonna be on the struggle bus for a while. I know I have a lot of students that don't take my basics. They come to me and they're like, they're kind of in the middle. It's like, they're like, the basic class might bore them a little bit, although they end up learning a lot of stuff. Some people actually go, I'm just gonna take it. And then some just come to me and I thought, I'll just teach them along the way, but they have some bad habits that hold them up a little bit. So I try to change it a little bit. So let's see, what was I gonna show you? Oh, for starters, the blueprint that I had in my last video had some homework for you, asking what your goals are, looking at clothing details, going to the fabric store to go look around. If you can't, I have a video on there, took you on a tour through the fabric store, and this is blueprints of kind of how you start in the sewing. What we're going to cover today is like what the best machine is for you, and some just real basic kind of things. So, by the way, thank you for all your comments and emails on that first video. I'm glad to see a lot of you are out there really giving this a go and trying and doing it the right way, getting to know the basics and all. First off, what I want to do is we'll kind of go over a little bit of the machine and help you to become a machine ninja. The trick with machine is like you can literally thread a machine. I can like in 30 seconds. So everybody's like, I don't want to thread the machine. They just all this dread right away, and then it's like just like 30 seconds. Like I hate unloading the dishwasher. Now I'm tricking myself. Now I put like segments. I'll do the top one, then the dishwasher, I'll go away. I'll come back to the bottom one. But the dishwasher, if you really timed it, it only takes like 5 minutes to do it. So I don't know how I got off on that. Anyway, also I have this. First off, when you start sewing, is look at the sewing tools. I know in the video, the fabric video I had, and also if you went to the fabric store, just go look in the tool aisle. So I have this for you. Some of my favorite tools like the seam gauges, the shears, all the marking pens, the friction pens are great. And just, you don't need to buy all kinds of stuff. You just need some of these very basics, and then you're on your way. And these will last you forever. I have a pair of shears that are my favorites. I have some shears I've had since I was in college. They're great. You can get them sharpened and stuff. So machines, I use this Basic Brother machine right here. I think I got these for about, I don't know how many machines of these have, probably 10. Years ago, I got them for under $100, and now this one machine is going for a little more for some reason. But I printed out a whole thing of Brother machines. I happen to love Brothers, and I'm not an affiliate. I should be. I think I will sign up soon. But all my students, they bring in the Brother machines. I just don't have any problems with them. They're smooth. They sew smooth. I really like them. So Brothers are great. These are, this is a machine that a lot of my students get. And it's, this one's probably like $160. It's the CS6000i. And really, all machines are kind of really the same. There's some like brands like Vikings and Husqvarna. They thread a little differently. They're I don't know, little things, but really a machine just has a top thread, goes down, picks up the bottom thread, brings it up. It's just a it's like a stitch. I actually have this hand stitching thing right here. This is a hand stitch right here. It's up, down, and that's what the machine does. The machine sews seams. Although some of these have some real fancy like stitches and stuff like that. I happen to hardly ever use them, but in my whole career I really just use the straight stitch, the zigzag, and to sewing is really engineering fabric pieces together, like shapes. Like you put a sleeve in, the sleeve looks, strange. Then there's an arm's eye, and then there's a shoulder seam, and then there's just shapes, and the machine doesn't do it. you do it. But this is also another one of my favorites. It's the Project Runway Brother, and has a lot of stitches. It says 49 stitches on there. So I remember when I sewed back in the 80s and the 90s, I had a machine, I think it had like 300 stitches, and all I did was use the straight and zigzag stitch. Like, one day I'm going to use these. Then this is a real simple machine, great starter machine. I think you can get it for like $70 or $80. It's a Brother. I have a lot of my students get that one. This is also a really nice one. This one has a lot more stitches on it. These are all probably 200 or under, and then some for 100 or under, so you don't have to get the fancy machines. It's not the machine doing the work. When you do get the machine, you want to get your instruction book out. So many people don't do this. And the first part you want to do is find knowing your machine right here. Looking at the parts of the machine, like where the hand wheel is. Also, hand wheel, you always want to go towards you. You don't want to like go back and forth. This is your hand wheel right here, right there. Then you'll find also machines too, they have a lot of feet, like presser foot. We call that the gas pedal at our school. Presser feet. There's all kinds of different feet, and they just help you. They don't do anything. Like a zipper foot doesn't put a zipper in. It just helps guide around the zipper kind of thing. Then there's a buttonhole foot that does make a buttonhole. You actually, if you get it in the place right there, you can actually just not even touch it, and you can have a buttonhole. Pretty fun, actually. So get to know your sewing machine. Just scan over, look at the parts here. One thing a lot of people don't know and understand is the length of the stitch. That's like small stitch to longer. Get to know what that does. That's where in most machines I see a difference on the knobs and everything. Then there's the width of a stitch, and that's like the zigzag stitch or any of the decoratives, like how wide that stitch will go. You can actually play with all of the gadgets on this machine. Actually, I did that on this machine. I took out some fabric here, and I just went down and played, put the different numbers on there, and then I wrote down the numbers right here and what it was, and like the widths they were. Like I put, that's the number 5, the shell tuck. That's what it gave me. That's what it looks like. Rampart stitch. I like this one here. I don't know if I'll ever use it. A lot of these you can use in, like, if you're doing patchworks and stuff. Then there's like the I did a buttonhole right here. Buttonholes are pretty fun. They take a little. Every time I actually do a buttonhole, I have to remind myself. I used to have to go back to the book and look at it, because nowadays the buttonholes are so easy in the new machines. But so become a machine ninja, get to know your machine, and then when you go to sew, because like sewing is engineering fabric pieces together. It's not about the machine. You need to have that machine knowledge down and become muscle memory. Like you could just thread it like that. So I'm going to show you how. Real quick, a little bit about machines. Actually, I wanted to show you the different types of machines. So I showed you the machine that we use is right here. And if you see, right there where the bobbin is, I have to put the camera a little differently here. This is where the bobbin is in this machine. So that's a top loader. Then there's this type of machine, and the bobbin lays under here. So it's actually in there. These are heavier than they look. I think I'm getting weak. But so let me show you a little bit how to thread the machines. There's 2 different types. I happen to like the top loader bobbins better. I think they're just a little easier. The bottom ones, you're actually, this is called the bobbin case. That goes in that other machine. So actually in the top loader, you actually pop. This is laying in there already. You put the bobbin in there. In case you don't know what a bobbin is, this is a bobbin. It holds the bottom thread. Like I said, the top thread comes down, bottom thread comes down, picks it up, makes a stitch. like that. So let me show you real quick on the threading of the machine. Okay, so to thread it, first, these machines usually give you guidance. This one happens to have a 1 here. It tells you to start here. Obviously, you put your thread on the loop. And then it has, in like a Braille plastic, things, this right here, it says 2, then it says 3, then there's a 4 right here. Then you come down and there's a little hook on top of this needle that you just put the thread through, and then you thread the needle. So that's the top part. So if I get this thread here, I'm just going to go over and under the bar like that. It just went over and under. It looks like this illustration. Comes down this first crack right here and goes up, and then it has to scoop around. This is called the take-up lever, and that has to be up to the highest position. So it's right here. You can see it moving in there. The hand wheel brings it up, and you just scoop it right to left. Make sure that gets lodged in there, otherwise you'll definitely have problems. And you come down, and then there's number 5 right here, and then I'm going to scoop it through that little, there's a hook right on top of the needle, and your machine might look differently. Then I'm going to give it a fresh clip so that it's not a frayed edge at all. And then a little piece of white paper will help you see the needle eye. I have to turn my light on over here. I don't have the light on. Wow, I got that through. I didn't even know I had it. Just guessed. So then I threaded it. You got to make sure the thread's not twisted around the needle. It just comes down and then back. Then you have to put the bobbin in. And the bobbin is real important to be in the right direction. It shows you on a sticker right here. It says put the bobbin in so that the thread's going counterclockwise, or it's also in the plastic right here. So what that means is if you put this bobbin, got the thread coming around that way, it's going counterclockwise, or it looks like a P right there. And then you just put it in the hole there, and then this machine has a little gray tongue. You can see it right here. It's a little gray, we call it a gray tongue there. I haven't seen them on many of the other machines, but I put my finger right here. This sketch even shows the finger right here, so it keeps it from moving around. And I just go scoop like that, and I put it down. It has to get into this little lodge part under there, and that's how you get it. Then I'm going to hold on to the top thread. I'm going to take the hand wheel, and it's going to go, the hand wheel goes towards you, and then you go down and up, and then you pull that thread, and that should have had the loop come up right here. So the loop, there's a loop that comes up here. And you can see all that movement happening here, and you just drag all that thread through there so that when you're done, you have the green, this is a green thread, just goes going over the bobbin right there, and that's how you know it's in there right. Then I just clip it off, and then I'm going to take these 2 threads, put them underneath the presser foot and then towards the back. Then I'm going to cap it. And now it's done. It's pretty simple. So what you want to do next is get some fabric, run it through, make sure you don't have any jams and stuff, and then just practice and practice. So becoming a machine threading ninja takes a little bit of practice. You should do it like over and over again, like drills, like whenever you had to learn something. Like I think Michael Jordan probably, basketball, basket, 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 and then he developed this muscle memory, and then he's like, he doesn't even know how it's developing, but that's the same with a sewing machine. You just you develop the muscle memory on it, and it's just practice, practice, practice. So really just taking a little bit of time learning that you'll just jump over so many more hoops, and basketball hoops, that's good. And then you can get on to all the really good stuff. So just get that machine done. This is what we use in our sewing classes. We just get a double piece of fabric, because whenever you sew, you're usually sewing on 2 pieces of fabric, right? You're connecting the 2. And just give yourself some lines and then try to follow it. You'll also get, better at following lines and all too. So that's a great way to practice. Then, run through that the machine and just play around with your stitches and just spend some time there. Now, where a lot of my students really get hooked, how do you say, messed up on is threading the needles. Just, oh my gosh. So I thought I'll get out some thread here. If you're hand sewing, there's this stuff called beeswax. You actually take a thread and you drag it through this thing of wax here, and it will coat it and make it a little bit easier. Now, a little bit of homework is actually to buy a pack of needles like this, and there's all these different sizes, like the big ones and then the little skinny ones, and then there's also, you know, machine needles, all different. Their eye is down here. So if you're like spending some time watching TV one night, just get out some needles and sit there and practice threading a needle like that. Just go and start with the bigger ones, get your muscle memory going with threading a needle, and then when you get into these, start with the hand needles is always easy, then you get into these machine needles, you have to thread them a little bit differently because they're down low, and then you just thread them that way. Now with thread, if you use the cutters on the side of the machine, it will fray your thread, and it gets hard to get through the little holes, so you just got to really give it a fresh clip. It should be, my clippers are a little dull, really blunt edge. And also, I saw a YouTube video somewhere that said if you lick the thread, it actually, the saliva prevents it from going through the eye. So you actually don't lick it. And just sit there and practice threading that. And while you're at it, practice threading knots or making knots on the end of threads. That's where a lot of my students really get tied up, and it's really hard to teach that because your hands are in the way with making a knot. So, so just, you know, develop your muscle memory, motor skills on threading a machine. Also look in your catalog for your instructions, and like mine had this page that came out, and it shows, it's like the quick page, and it shows the threading right there. So and keep that by your machine until you're really good at it, and then all that will come out. So practice those basics, become a machine ninja and a needle threading ninja. And in the next video, I'll give you a little simple, basic project. All starts with this one project. I've seen all my students do this. And teach you a little bit about seam allowances and some very basics, and then you'll be on your way to designing anything that you can visualize. See you next time.